What's up, peeps? Man, it's the SEC Connect. We got 4 out of the 5. Jay is coming on. You got myself, you got Ty, you got Chris with a K, and you got my boy Steven. Jay will be in a minute. Put them horns up, man, because we look damn good this week. Um, Fellas, hey, fans. First off, man, like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel, man. Get us up there, folks. But we're gonna go ahead and just start this thing, fellas. Man, we got a lot to talk about. Week 1 is through the gates, man. A lot of bad football was played this week in the SEC. But prior to getting to the bad football that was played, how's everybody doing today, man?
Doing well. Big game coming up this week for us. We're now in front of the country, Nino, this week. We'll get to that, but
Yeah.
excited to talk about week 1. Everybody's product finally out on display. Some people's product looking sharp. Others people's product needs to be recalled.
A whole lot of recalls are in order right now. Ty is extremely mad today because of the one of Sunbelt Billy, Coach Napier from the University of Florida. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. First, let's just go ahead and talk about Sunbelt Billy. Ty, I'm going to give you the floor on this one because you had a whole lot to say before we started this thing.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, most of you probably do, we do a Bleacher Report college football pick'em show every Friday. I was the only one that picked Florida. So I'm the idiot. And I'll explain why. Because in my mind, it was like, okay, Miami's going to be talented, but if you were a team playing Miami, week 1 is probably the time to try and catch them. New quarterback, new running back with an offensive coordinator. How fast is that going to gel? Yes, it might be a veteran quarterback, but it's a completely different environment. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, Florida has a lot to prove. They have a real tough schedule on the back end, so they need every single win they can get, not only for Billy's job, but for recruiting, especially against an in-state school. And it's not that they lost, it's how they lost. It's one thing to lose. We were talking about this in the green room. Texas played a great game against Colorado State. But you know what Colorado State didn't do? They didn't quit. Alabama beat the brakes off of Western Kentucky. You know what Western Kentucky and that head coach, they didn't do? They didn't quit. Miami made Florida quit before the game was out of hand. And that's the part that fundamentally pissed me off. I'm sitting there watching. One, I sat back, watched the All-22 film of Miami's offense against Florida's defense against Miami's offense 3 times today. And every time I watched it, I got more mad than the time before because Miami was better coached, better prepared, more creative, better across the board. They knew what Florida was going to do. I don't know who's calling the plays for Florida, but if it's Billy, fire him and fire whoever allowed him to do it. Florida has got some issues, gentlemen, and I think if you are Florida, you have to clean house.
Yeah.
Because this isn't working. And once again, it's not that you lost. If they would have lost by the same score, but they would have put their heart and soul into that game for all 4 quarters, I'd be a lot less mad. It's the fact that you quit. Really, I think it's safe to say 2 minutes into the 3rd quarter, they quit.
They were cooked.
I don't know, man. I don't know that I've seen that in a rivalry game. Whenever, I don't know. It's perplexing. They need to get rid of Billy Napier. They're not winning. You remember we joked earlier in the season that if they win 8 games, they can build a statue of Billy outside the stadium because the schedule's that hard. Well, good news, Florida construction workers. You ain't got to build a statue. Because if they win 4 games, I'm going to be surprised. And then they had that damn Massey ratings thing come out, and it said that, what did they have, 2 wins they were supposed to get? But the most egregious thing is they had them scoring 14 points on Georgia, which made me mad again. I don't know.
Oh man, Steven, you over there laughing? Go ahead and say it, man.
I mean, this is not even. I've been on the Sunbelt Billy Napier thing, and today. Yes, he needs to be held accountable. I mean, but the entire. I mean, when you have the social media aspect, it's one thing to lose. And to Ty's point, boosters. Let's talk about boosters. The people that contribute money to the program, the people that fund the program, they don't want to be embarrassed. Florida is now an embarrassment, and we kind of laughed and joked. And I don't remember the man's name that was in here a few weeks ago that was a Florida fan that really tried to justify why they were going to go 8-4 and
Well, we need his ass
point.
front and center.
Where you
Yeah,
at?
right.
Get the gat, get the gat, get the gat.
Because that not only, I mean, it's one thing to take an, I mean, if they had lost to Miami, people, I think we all can watch football, right? And I'm gonna speak on it from this standpoint. Mario Cristobal and them, they did their thing in the portal, and they've accumulated. They got the right quarterback. They accumulated enough talent. His specialty, which is the offensive line, all he had to do was take care of the offensive line and let those weapons, Arroyo at tight end, Restrepo at receiver, George Brown, they're deep. Damian Martinez at running back, Mark Fletcher's still there at running back. The firepower Miami had was on full display, and they were clicking. Okay, let's not take anything away from them. They look like the best team in the ACC. But to Ty's point, there was no fight from Florida. That's on your home soil. The swamp used to mean something when I grew up. You weren't supposed to just go in there and do them like that. Regardless, even the Ron Zook days, they never got done like that in the swamp. That was crazy. And you know what? The boosters need to be held accountable too, because I'm watching Dan Mullen sitting on set, smiling like a Cheshire cat, because he's like, I won 30 games in 3 years and y'all fired me. And for what? You did all of this for what? I don't like in-season firings, but this is a unique case because the program is now. What do? Billy can't go and recruit mid-season now. What do you do if you're Florida? I leave that question to Chris and Nino.
You hit Florida State's class. That's what you do.
No, you still ain't gonna be able to get them because they're gonna be poaching from them too. Did you guys see the damn players from the U going over to the recruit saying, "Don't go here"? The guys who had official visits to Florida,
mid-game,
like, "Don't go here. Come to Miami. We run this state." That's embarrassing, man. Like, look, I'm with Steven on this. That is so embarrassing. Like, this is Florida might not win 3 games this year. Like, they might not win 3 games this year. And this comment up here that says that this Florida game and the Aggie game is going to be a dumpster fire. I don't think so. I think A&M's going to they're going to kill them. You know, at least I know what A&M's going to do. They didn't quit in that game, and they played a ranked opponent that was a tough physical opponent. Cal Field was still rocking, right? You know, it is what it is. Their offense isn't nothing, but their defense brought it. Like, defense travels. Florida just, dude, they just gave up, sat down, and said, let's just go to the club tonight. You know what I'm saying? So they had a player after the game saying F this team on Instagram. Like, what kind of stuff is going on in that locker room, man? So, Chris, man,
Nino,
man. What's
Nino,
up?
Nino. Before we get to Chris, Nino, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a Florida defense look that slow?
Nah,
ever
man.
in your life?
Florida's always been. It's like Florida football is fast because they got all the athletes in state.
Offense looks slow too.
Everything it's that team. Look, it's almost like Napier didn't realize what state he's in. It's almost like he is recruiting like he's still at, Monroe. All right. It's like, no, that you are at Florida. It's a storied school. Some might call it a blue blood. I mean, they got everything that you want in a school, in a program, resources galore. It's one of the most resource rich states when it comes to football talent. And then, the state above you is Alabama. You got Georgia there too as well, which are also resources. and parents can come see their kids play in Gainesville. There's so much talent in the area. There's no reason why you can't get 25 recruits every year that are fast and physical to come play with you, man. It is what it is. Slow ass team. Chris, what's going on, man?
Florida, everybody in Florida, I mean, well, half of Florida, I guess you can say, right? But University of Florida, Gainesville, all the people there, what you need to know about your team is that they need to spin the block like a couple of times, maybe 3. They need to spin the block the first time on Cam Ward and tell him, please, don't ever get it twisted. The swamp is way louder than Oregon State, USC, and whatever other teams in the Pac-12 that you were talking about. So you need to get your respect back on that. You got to get that back in blood. Second off, you need to spin the block on 3, who updated the Florida season prediction to you winning 2 games this year against Samford and UCF. Which this UCF game is honestly a toss-up to be.
I don't think they get UCF.
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to spin the block on them, okay? Third all, you got to spin the block on Miami again. Why? Because you have now allowed the people in Miami, Florida, in all of Florida, and possibly half of the nation, you've given them the idea that the U is back, right? So we have to pump the brakes because although Cam Ward is that guy, he's Himothy, right? He is him. Cristobal is still on that sideline, so that is a to be continued story right there. That's a saga that is going on because they won't lose games on the field unless Cristobal is making boneheaded decisions. I think Ty would.
Hey, Chris, can you pause right there on the Cristobal point, though? And Miami fans thinking they're back. Let's also make this really clear. As of right now, this is pure week 1 Kool-Aid overreaction. Miami think they run shit right now because Florida State down bad too.
Well, they do run Florida. They run
as of right now. If you think about both Miami, let's call a spade a spade. Both Miami and Florida State spent bread in the portal. They went ham in the portal.
They did.
And one school got it really, really right, and one school got it really, really wrong.
Yeah.
And looking for a refund.
But hold on. Hey, Steven, I got something for you on this. Hold on, Ty. You know what they got right? The quarterback position. I think Florida State did really well in the portal. The only thing that is bad in that is that they didn't get Cam Ward and they got DJU. You swap those two, and I think we have a different story.
Then we have a bunch of different stories.
Well, here's the thing. I don't disagree. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no comparing DJU, Cam Ward. I very well received. You are instantly better. But do you want to know why I don't know that if Florida State would they had 21 rushing yards.
What is
on Boston College? This is the difference. You want to know what? And Steven, you make a great point, but let's take it a step further. Let's really get down into and this is going to sound harsh, but let's really peel the onion back and say what it is. One team went out there and got starters. The other team went out there and got players that were second or third on the depth chart. No disrespect, but all offseason Florida State fans were telling Bama fans, oh, we're Bama in Florida now. You got a bunch of players outside of Roy Dell. Roy Dell, I completely get. He graduated. He went over there.
That's a different scenario.
My heart bleeds for Roy Dell. I feel so bad for him because that offensive line is pitiful. But you have guys on that Florida State team that in the spring could have been competing at Alabama for playing time. I'm going to be honest, gentlemen. I don't think there's one player that left Alabama for Florida State, be very poignant here, left Alabama for Florida State. I'm not talking about Caleb Downs. I'm not talking about Isaiah Bond. They're ballers, right? They're not in this that left Alabama for Florida State that would be playing for Alabama right now. And Miami went out and got starters.
That's
so
true.
who
That's
you
true.
get from the portal matters.
You have to respect what Ty is saying because Ty is humbling himself because he was a huge Malik Benson fan coming out of that JUCO.
That's true.
You got to respect Ty's point on that. But here's the point with Florida State. I know we're just kind of taking a detour right now. the fact that they're not featuring him as their number one when he's clearly their number one guy is truly absurd.
They can't throw the ball. They can't run the ball. They
It's
can't
truly
block.
absurd what they're doing. I mean, I'm just being real with you. It's truly absurd, exactly what they're doing. But no, I mean, back to it. I guess to me, obviously, yes, you got to spin the block. But if I am in the Florida State, I mean, if I'm in the Florida locker room right now, this is coach speak. Half of it, at least, what I'm saying. Tunnel vision. You got to keep looking forward. You got to keep looking forward, right? But you're starting DJ Lagway this week, so. I know it's against Sanford. I know whatever the case may be, but it's time. I mean, fans are already calling for it. People are calling for it. Billy, your job is on the line this year. I'm sorry. Because, me and my one last point. Me and my aunt, we were talking about this, I think, Sunday, Monday, whichever one. And he brought up a good point. He said, at the end of the day, we can laugh and say, oh, well, that $25 million buyout that Billy Napier has, that's a lot. That's probably not a lot for a school like Florida. Florida could probably get that situated or figured out to where they can either pay that off or pay it over time on the back half of the contract or whatnot, right? So I don't know. I think Billy is real. I think he's on the hot seat. I really do. I think he's on the hot seat this year. I think he's going to have to get something figured out because I just don't see them. I don't see them coming back from this. And the thing about Florida is that just, I don't know. Like, when they got that interception, you felt like, okay, cool. Yeah, no, this would be a game. And then it never materialized into that. So it never felt like it was a competitive game from the get-go. Right. And so I don't know, like this isn't the worst Florida team that we've seen. We've seen some bad Florida teams, but I will say I don't know, like it did kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth because you thought they would have some type of momentum coming into this season, especially with, didn't they have a really good recruiting class? Didn't they have a good, portal, all the rest of this stuff? Like this was supposed to be a good year for them. Obviously, we know the schedule wise, right? But this was supposed to be, a year where, hey, maybe they can go out there and make something shake, be bowl eligible. And now it just feels like all hope is lost after game one. And that's crazy that we're even talking about that.
Chris, the spread on the Florida game was what, 2.5?
Yeah. And it was a 24-point win or something like that.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. It was a disgusting, piece of work by Florida. One thing I do want to say about Lagway, right? I almost don't want the kid to play. This is a failure waiting to happen. He has no offensive line in front of him. This is something that could
no creative play calling.
No play calling. This is something that could, no kidding, ruin a kid's career from the start. Some kids, I don't know his mental makeup, but he is going to get tested and challenged from the get-go because Florida, look, man, people smell blood in the water. This isn't the Florida of old where people had a little bit of fear of them. Like, oh, man, they're going to be fast. Like, we got to look at this. There's nothing on Florida's team that if any team in the SEC, even Vanderbilt, if Vanderbilt plays them, they are not afraid of them. I want people to think about that for a minute. We're talking about Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt plays Florida tomorrow, they are not afraid of them. They feel like they can match up player for player with Florida.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
Vandy beat them.
There was a point in this game, guys, where it should, and I understand I'm doing revisionist history, but hear me out here. It should have been 6-3 at a certain point in this game. Yeah. You have Miami. 3rd and long, you stop them, and then you take an unnecessary shot at Cam Ward because you want to send a message about how damn physical you are. Well, guess what? He scores. Then you do it again.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to tell you this. If they had done that against Diego Pava for Vanderbilt, did y'all remember what he did to the Auburn player that intercepted his pass last year? He suplexed them. I'm not joking. He ran them down, picked them up, and suplexed him. He'd have fought that whole team in the parking lot, and guess what? I'd have picked him to win over these current Gators. That was pathetic, what I saw on Saturday.
The thing that should piss you off as a Florida fan is just this right here. everybody on this panel has watched Cam Ward. I know I've been a huge fan. You can ask my uncle about it because I told my uncle, I said, hey, there's a kid up there at Washington State that is setting the world on fire and nobody's paying attention. He's keeping them in games single-handedly by himself. I've seen Cam Ward go out there and play all types of different ways. I've seen him go out there and look just like a pro-style quarterback. I've seen him go out there and be mobile, be a dual threat. But I've also seen him against Florida go out there and play like Patrick Mahomes playing backyard football because he just felt like he was in the zone, he was hot, and that he was downright the best player on the field, and he was better than their entire team. So if you go back and watch that game, hopefully Ty back me up on this with him rewatching the game. Cam Ward was out there playing backyard football against them. Some of the passes, some of the different things he was doing, he's not necessarily going to try that against good teams, against really good competition, whereas elite, every play matters. He's not going to sit there and run 5 yards going left, then turn around and throw across his body a slingshot, sidearm throws out there. He's not going to do that against elite competition. It'll come up in spots, but it's not going to happen as much as it happened in that Florida game. Florida really has to look at themselves in the mirror and say, hey, what are we doing? Because one thing you always count on Florida is that offensively, it may be a little bit stagnant, but their defense is going to make you work that field at some point, at least at home. And that just didn't happen.
Nothing.
So, yeah.
Hey, man, Florida's cooked right now. Billy Napier, I'm with Steven. I've never called for somebody to get fired midseason, and I don't like to call for people to get fired, but he signed a $51 million fully guaranteed contract. He'll be fine. He won't have any missed meal cramps when he gets fired, so he'll be fine. Florida has to recover from this, man, and when it comes to recruiting, they're not going to recover from this if they keep him as the head coach for the entire year. And I don't want DJ Lagway to play because I think he's going to be damaged goods at the end of the season if they start this kid the entire year with that. I'm just going to be honest with you. But we spent about 30 minutes on Florida. We can talk forever on Florida because just how horrible of a team that they were. But look, I want to go on to still some somber news for the SEC. Yeah, let's talk LSU versus USC.
I got you.
Hold on real quick. I want to start this one off, Chris. Really good game. I mean, a really good game, a close game. And I must say, both defenses from both teams
highly impressive compared to what I thought they were going to be.
Much improved. USC, give Lincoln Riley a hand for the defensive staff that he put together. That team was flying around the ball. So was LSU's defense. Both teams' defenses looked extremely well. Somebody had to lose the game. The Tigers lost the game, but a great game overall. Nussmeier did look good. He had a couple, things at the end of the game, but it was towards the end of the game trying to make some hero ball. LSU's LSU, man. I mean, Ty says it all the time. I'm never worried about wide receivers for LSU. Jay says it all the time too. They just pick out wide receivers from the street, and those guys come out to be 1,000-yard guys. The rushing game wasn't bad. I think there was still some meat on the bone there for them, but I was highly impressed with both teams' defenses. Somebody had to lose the game, and it was the Tigers. But yeah, Chris, go ahead, man.
Okay, so Nick, I'm just gonna tell you, just hold your horses on that real quick. Okay. Simply because of this right here. First off, people, if you see me on my channel and all the other channels that I've been on, what did I do this week? I picked yet another game. I tweeted it out if you guys saw it or whatever. I did pick USC to win this game. There are 2 times, and I'm going to be fully transparent here, okay? There are 2 times that you do not want to play Lincoln Riley. First off, that is in Championship November, whenever he feels like he got the juice and he feels like he has a good team. Because we all know his defense philosophy has always been, I'll just outscore you, regardless of what my defense looks like. Second off, and we know that because of the track record, so please check that. Second off, the other time that you do not want to play Lincoln Riley is when he has all the time in the world to prepare for you. Because those same looks that he will allow you to sleep with, he's going to turn those into trick plays or add some type of wrinkle into the offense. That's what Lincoln Riley does early on in the season. And a lot of big games, maybe not the playoffs, but a lot of big games, he's pretty damn good. He's went to Ohio State and won before people. Now, the only thing that I would say is hold your horses, Nick, because we've seen this before. where OU fans fell in love with the new DC and everything was fine until it wasn't, right? Until we got to the to play elite teams, to play better teams, right? I don't consider LSU being that. LSU look the same that they look as if nothing had changed from the year prior, except for the fact that they can't rely on Jaden Daniels to make plays, extend plays, do different things with his legs, not just his arm.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that one, man.
I disagree.
I just say
Nussmeier is not the same guy. That defensive secondary, different things like that, a lot has not changed on that team. They're still not yet elite. I think they're going to be a decent team in the SEC, but I don't think that they're elite. I don't think they're good. Coming into that game, the fact of the matter is it comes down to the same thing it always comes down to with LSU is Brian Kelly going to get outcoached? And he got outcoached. That's what LSU fans were all talking about. I woke up. I remember I went to sleep. I got on a Twitter space for LSU fans. So many people in there. They didn't stop until 3:00 in the morning. I woke up at 3:00 and they still were going. It was crazy. But the fact of the matter is that I think that this was a good game. This was a solid game. But I got to hold my horses because I got to see more of this sample size from Lincoln Riley because I've seen it all before. Trust me, we OU fans in here know we've seen this before.
Well, hey, Chris, who was the only DC that he had at OU? It was Grinch, right?
It was Grinch, and then it was Mike Stoops as well. Mike Stoops before Grinch.
Yes, but Mike Stoops was a holdover from his brother. I think we can all say that, right? So we all know what Stoops was.
That doesn't change anything. They were winning with him,
but he was still a holdover from his brother. I don't think Riley would openly say, "Give me Mike Stoops." I'm pretty sure that was a holdover. Now he did go and get Grinch, who Ohio State fans were glad to get rid of Grinch. I think we're all kind of flustered on why he picked Grinch as his DC, and then when he went to he sucks. And then once he went to USC, we thought this was the perfect time to exit the marriage, right? I don't know why he brought him. Their new DC, man, he was at UCLA, like for the past few years, and UCLA's defense was a top 10 defense. And
I got some numbers for you.
Yeah. Hey, Todd, tell him, man.
This Washington State, Grinch was doing things as well.
That was 2013.
Yeah.
That was 2013.
Recency.
He inherited
I get
the
recency bias, and you could disagree. I'm just saying we've seen this story before. OU fans have seen this story before. You got to have a larger sample size than just this one game against LSU with Brian Kelly.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
You got to see more of a sample size.
I get it, Chris, but you also have to look and see that this defense looked a lot different than Lincoln defense of the past. I've never seen their defenses fly around the ball like this. Let's just keep it honest. You're an OU guy. You watch your defenses.
No, I'm acting like Nick Menino and him don't exist. That's crazy.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm talking about the defense as a totality, Chris.
That's cool.
As a totality of a defense, man. This defense looked pretty damn good. I know you don't like Lincoln Riley. We get it.
It's nothing about Lincoln Riley. I never said anything. I didn't say anything piss poor about Lincoln Riley. Okay. What I'm telling you is, before you sit here and your claim to fame is that USC is going to have a great defense this year, buddy, you got to look at the sample
I said they look much
improved.
They look much improved.
I know that you don't know. You weren't an OU fan. You didn't sit there whenever we were going through these whole resurgent periods. I'm telling you, acting like Benito and all of them didn't.
I didn't say that. I just said USC's defense.
Here's the issue. Who was the guy formulating? No. But here's the issue. Here's the issue with that. You're right. Oklahoma, there were times where y'all had great defensive players. You had a piss poor defensive coordinator. Alabama had an all-star team. They had the Monstars, and Pete Golding was dropping Will Anderson back in coverage at a 38% clip.
Yeah.
Let that sit. Almost 40% of the time, the best pass rusher I've seen, and how long, guys, was dropping into coverage at nearly 40% of the time.
Rookie of the year. Okay? Rookie of the year, the defense side of the ball.
Let him eat, and he's going to feast. Here's the numbers, though, because I do agree with you here, Chris. It's one game. We need to see a sample size. Now, once again, I was wrong on this game. I picked LSU, but not because I thought that their defense was going to be good. All offseason, I've been telling everybody that would listen, their defense isn't going to be good this year. They don't have the bodies up front. Hell, I actually led the Bleacher Report segment off this week past Friday with, oh, it's the game of who's going to play worse defense. That was my opening line. But I'm going to give you something on Lynn. This man inherited a UCLA defense that was 92nd in the nation, and he took them from the 92nd defense in the nation to number 14 in a year. You can say, hey, it's the Pack. Last year was the best the Pack has looked since 2006,
Yeah,
2005.
Easy. Yep.
He did it. Anthony Lucas played a hell of a game. Gentlemen, this is an LSU offensive line that will be up, or at least I thought they would be up for a Joe Moore Award. He pancaked dudes. He put dudes on their ass multiple different times that game. So, Chris, here's where I'm at. I'm not saying that I think USC is going to have a top 15 defense. Quite frankly, that would be historic. Like a level of historic, gentlemen, that I don't know if we've seen before, where someone inherits two defenses in a row that were around 100th in the nation and then shoots them to top 15 in a year. I'm always one of those guys. I believe in the rule as opposed to the exception, but I'm all too happy to be wrong in instances like this. But do I think that USC could have a defense that ranks anywhere between 30th to 40th in the nation? I think that's plausible. And if you have Lincoln, a 30th to 40th defense, that's going to get you something done. And then if they can retain him, because it's not just Lynn. Trojan knows. Trojan Fight and I, we've had our back and forths. He's known. Though I questioned what the defense would look like, I loved the hires. Eric Henney on the defensive line. Doug Belk at cornerbacks. That guy knows SEC landscape. You have Matt Entz at linebacker, and then you have Lynn as your defensive coordinator. It's a damn good defensive staff. You're not wrong. My point, the only thing I would raise you, Chris, is Bonitto was a hell of a player, a monster. What would he have looked like with Lynn calling the plays as opposed to Alex Grinch?
He wouldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Harold Perkins is Nick Bonitto 2.0. Not talent wise, I'm talking about usage wise. And the reason why I say that is because it looks like it doesn't matter what is going on with whatever defensive coordinator is there. They use him as a spy. They use him basically as a damn nickelback. That's what was going on with Alex Grinch using Bonitto at times. But at times when they needed to go win games, that's whenever you would just let them sit back and go do. So I understand the difference of philosophy. I'm not saying that Lynn is a bad defensive coordinator or this and that. I'm just saying when it comes to Lincoln Riley teams, I got to see them 7-8 games into the season, or at least 5 to 6 games at the very least, before I sit here and say have an overreaction like, oh yeah, no, USC defense is going to be good. Fact of the matter is that you guys know it. Everybody on here should know it. I've said for a long time, Miller Moss is a really good quarterback. Miller Moss can run Lincoln Riley's system. I called that game. I said USC would win. Reason why? Because I don't trust Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly to me has lucked out in some big games recently in some of the games that he's won. They've played the game of their lives to beat that Bama team and all the rest of that. I don't trust Brian Kelly. I knew Brian Kelly was going to come in here and make some crappy decisions, some crappy play calls. They still look like they don't necessarily have a good run game as far as that vaunted O-line. Defensively, I was like, it looks like you're getting a better rush, but okay, what about the secondary? They're still making really, really good plays. Outside of Kyrie Hudson, who was out there, and shout out to that dude, but outside of Kyrie Hudson, who was making crazy catches, everybody else was just doing what they normally do out there. And I mean, you were just picking on people because you had length on the outside and they were just running right past those guys. So I didn't really see what the difference was with this LSU team and last year's LSU team. So I put this all on Brian Kelly. To continue what I was saying about Florida, same thing about Brian Kelly. You got to spin the block. You got to go back and get it back in blood, because y'all did a lot of stuff out there that just made y'all look downright bad. And so, like I said, this game boiled down to the fact that Brian Kelly got out-coached, which that's the reason why I gave USC the advantage, because I knew Lincoln would come in here and call a hell of a game against them. Not necessarily that he was scared of them. I didn't necessarily see their defense playing like that for that game at least, but I did see this game being a hey, whoever gets the ball last and whoever can score really well, that's going to be who wins. And so I gave that advantage to USC because anytime the game was going to push mid 20s going up to 30 balls, 30 plus points per game, 30 plus points in the game, I already knew that was going to be Lincoln's alleyway. I already knew Lincoln was going to win those games.
We got Jay. Well, hey, Chris, I just want to say one thing. I know you're an OU guy, and I know you brought up, Nick Benito. I get it. Nick was a great player at OU, but we're talking about a guy who coming into a school and as a recruit. I'm not comparing Nick to Harold Perkins. Harold Perkins is the top 10 player in the country coming out of high school.
I said usage, not talent. I think everybody on the panel will agree with me that usage-wise, there's times where you sit there, especially last year, but coming into this game here, you still saw him doing the same thing. He looks like he's going to blitz and he's dropping back. What are we doing?
We're talking about how USC's defense looked much improved, and that so did the guys from Baton Rouge. So LSU had a good defense as well. Somebody had to lose the game. LSU lost the game. It was a good game, and both teams' defense looked much improved from last year.
Can I jump in, please?
Yeah.
Because I've been listening to just craziness for the last almost 20 minutes. All right, I got a lot to address.
I love to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Hold on, right quick, man. We got a $20 holla, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything, man. Love to their fans and the money, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Go ahead, Steven. Chris, you're in this camp, and I hear it in your voice. I hear it in your analysis. Not all of you are like this. We'll see what Jay has to say. But you guys are in this camp where you are so freaking emotional when it comes to Lincoln Riley that you cannot provide objective analysis about what you saw because everything is jaded based upon your experience with Lincoln Riley and XYZ and all this type of stuff that you cannot even sit there and analyze a single football game based upon what actually happened. USC LSU was one of the better football games, if not the best played football game that I saw in week one. Because week one is always going to be a mess. It's everybody's first games. It's a neutral site game. I actually thought it was a pretty good football game in terms of play. Thought both quarterbacks played very well. Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier. When you look at the defensive coordinators, both teams are feeling good about where they're at. If I'm LSU, I'm not flinching off of what I saw from Baker and what they did on that side of the ball. I thought they were night and day from the LSU defense that we saw last year. Brian Kelly needs to hold accountability for losing this football game. They've lost what, 5 straight season openers now?
Yep. Roughly.
5. So
yeah. 3 under Brian Kelly, 5 total.
3 under Brian Kelly. They've lost 5 straight season openers. Now I understand Florida State was really, really good last year. Losing to them, in the grand scheme of things, 2 years, like that's, and those were 50-50 ball games. USC LSU was a 50-50 ball game. However, you have to understand Lincoln Riley and them. I got to give them credit. This wasn't a shootout. This was a physical football game.
Yes.
There was a lot of nuance that occurred in this football game that USC had to navigate. USC scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. They came back. They were down. There was times where they had to bow up in short yardage straight up, right? Multiple times where it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and their boys came through on those snaps. I got it. Like, that's something that permeates throughout your football culture. That's not just a one game, one-sided thing. I mean, yes, they got to prove it out over the course of the season, especially in the Big Ten, new conference.
That's my main freaking point right there. I fail to see the logic in what you're trying to sit here and tell me that I'm emotional about Lincoln Riley when I just said, hey, I knew he was going to outcoach him. I knew that.
I can't even hear Chris. So let me go ahead and leave out and come back.
What are you talking about? Like that, I fail to see the logic in that. You're sitting there trying to categorize me in this whole that's just stupid, Steven. Come on, man.
Hey, well, that's your opinion.
That's crazy. I'm sitting here.
That's your opinion. You guys, Because you guys have been on this damn narrative about Lincoln Riley.
Larger sample size.
This is just what he does. And these backhanded compliments. It's okay to say, hey, Lincoln Riley, good job. It's okay to say that. You guys can't say Lincoln Riley, good job without having some backhanded comment.
Herman, Strong, all the rest of them. But I don't like all of that. When you get on here and try to act like,
do we have a boxing bell?
This and that. Like, that's bullshit. Like, come on, man. You know that. I just sat there.
I guess it's just me because I can't hear Chris whatsoever.
We just need a larger sample size.
Yeah, you must be talking only on one side. Let me get my headphones.
Like, I just said we need a larger sample size. We sat there during the Houston game when they played game 1. Oh, man, Grinch, Riley got it situated.
This isn't Houston.
Got that. Like, come on, man.
But my point is LSU is better. LSU had the number 1 offense in the country last year. Granted, a lot of those got Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. I understand they were not there. That offense is still going to be really freaking good this year. Yes or no, Chris? Is LSU's offense good?
They'll be good.
Can't hear anything. That's funny.
You said they'd be good. I said they'll be good.
So.
Yeah, I just said it. I said they'll be
good. No. So let me move on. Let me make this point and move on because you're just going to be you're gonna feel the way you feel. I'm not going to argue with a brick wall.
Move on, Steven. Move on. Steven.
They're going to win their next 4 games. LSU is. They're going to be fine. This is more of USC won a big game that they can stamp on their resume that will help them if they become contenders within the Big Ten. That's what I wanted to say. And I think Lincoln Riley deserves credit for making the hire on the defense, toughening up his football team, winning a football game in that manner. And they deserve credit, a lot of credit for that instance in that manner. I'm tired of the backhanded, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think it's ridiculous.
USC except for me. So I don't know what we're talking about. So I'm just saying, move on.
I'm good. I'm ready to move on. I made my point.
Move on, because I'm just saying I'm the only one on this panel that picked USC. So, yeah.
So, hey, so Chris, if Lincoln needs a extra time, and we got to see this more happening throughout the season. So what's your thought on Jackson Arnold? Is this one game just a referendum on what he's going to be? I'm asking a question. Do we need more of them?
What you call it? Still throwing picks and doing the same.
I'm asking a question.
Let's not play mental gymnastics. And
I'm not playing. I'm just saying. Only thing I'm saying, Chris. All I'm saying
is nobody on this panel picked USC. Except
that is true because I thought USC's defense was not going to be able to handle the offensive line of LSU, which is probably the most experienced and one of the best offensive lines in the country. They played damn good and controlled the lines of scrimmage, which is something that we haven't seen Lincoln Riley teams do. Let's just be honest. And they did a damn good job of it in this past game. And you got to give credit where credit's due. Chris, you've known me for years. You see me come here when OU has a great game. I will compliment them and say, you guys, hey, it was a great game. You guys played well here. You guys did that here. All we're saying is acknowledge that the damn team, USC, had a damn good game. Their defense looked better. Their defense was worse.
I picked them to win.
I understand that.
Something out.
We're going in circles. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Georgia Clemson.
Yeah,
I'm done with this.
Let's move on. Y'all.
We're talking about Georgia Clemson.
Well,
I haven't got to give my comments.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jay.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
You haven't let me give my comments on the game.
So, Jay, before you came in here, right, just where I was at is I was like, listen, what impressed me most from USC's defense is the fact that multiple times throughout that game, USC's defensive front put guys on that offensive line that will probably be up for a Joe Moore Award on their ass. Like, Anthony Lucas played really, really, really well. And I was just like, listen, Lynn took UCLA's defense from 92nd in the nation to 14th in 1 year. Now, I'm not saying I think he's going to replicate that. In fact, I don't. Because that would be to do that twice would be historic. Though, listen, I'm always happy to be wrong in these instances where history is made, right?
Fair.
I think that we're looking at a USC defense that could be anywhere from 30 to 40th in the nation, and even that would be an incredible turnaround. That's kind of how I looked at it, but yeah, very interested to get your take on this.
No, I am in the exact same boat, man. I think that, Lincoln Riley has a defense now, right? I think Millen Moss played well. He played as good as he's going to do because LSU is supposed to have a solid defense this year, finally, right? You bring in all of these new coaches, you bring in all these new staff members that's supposed to help replace and improve what you came from. They were like 120th or something in defense. Yeah. They were ass last year. And they looked better, but Moss was making some big plays. If there's any criticism I could truly give in this game is I don't understand why the hell LSU did not kick a field goal to start the game.
Yeah.
Why did you go for it on 4th and go? If he would have kicked that field goal for the majority of that game, because most likely the way the game went, it would have stayed on a similar course. There is a good chance LSU was up 3 points with the ball in their hands for the final possession. They had the chance. They could have easily potentially sealed this game if they kicked the flipping field goal to start getting greedy and thinking that, it's USC, they ain't got defense.
He made that mistake in the Florida State game last year.
Right, exactly.
And he got conservative when he had the lead.
This is 2 times in a row this man has done this.
It's because
what are we doing here?
He didn't respect USC.
Oh, no, he did not. He did not.
And then he got punched in the mouth.
In the throat. He got kicked right in the throat. Sweet chin music. And they ain't passing the ox. That's exactly what we saw in this.
But can I address something?
Yes,
Jesse Browning saying if USC is putting work on the offensive line, then those offensive liners far from Joe Moore. Look, it is week 1. That's the same offensive line from last year, Jesse, and that's Jay, right or wrong, that LSU offensive line at the end of the season will probably be one of the top offensive lines in the nation. They
100%.
have a left tackle who will probably be the first left tackle off the board.
And their right tackle will be the first one, too.
So, listen,
this comment?
Now it's that's what I mean, Jesse. I do agree. It's only week 1. But that LSU offensive line is a good offensive line, which is why I was like, that's different.
They handled business. They
did. They did exactly what they were supposed to.
Hey, 35 on LSU, Savion Jones. He's a Sunday player, by the way. That brother was moving.
Yeah,
moving. But overall, that's kind of my point with it is that LSU's offensive line. I get where anyone would say they feel like that line is suspect because they allowed Lincoln Riley team to do that to them.
And
I totally would get that. That is a fair statement you could give me, right? This isn't 2017 where you're looking at Riley coaching somebody else's recruits. These are now his players. So I would totally understand it. It's no different than people questioning Oklahoma having a defense now, even though we have a coach that's known for coaching defense, right? I get that you're not used to it. But Lynn is a really good defensive coordinator, and it looks like he's actually got them in the weight room, and they're playing like this. Now, let's keep this in mind, though. They haven't touched their Big Ten schedule yet. We will know who they are when they play in the Big Ten. But week 1 against an LSU team that's known, that line has been known for being really good. They had the top offense in the country because of this line, period. That's what we know. They returned everybody. If USC was able to do that, that's kind of a sign that USC's kind of making a turn. Now, again, we'll see when they play against these Big Ten teams who are just as physical as most of your SEC teams are, right? That's just what the Big Ten is. They just don't have offenses. That's always been the big thing. Ask Iowa. They'll have a whole bunch of defense.
Well,
they ain't
Iowa, they
want to punt the ball. They want to punt the ball so they can play more defense.
Hey, no, Iowa got 20 safeties.
I was about to say, Iowa got 20 safeties.
That's my point. They like to punt the ball so they can play more defense. That is their entire strategy.
All right, man.
But
How can you not run the ball? And it's not even and I know people are like, oh, well, they couldn't run the ball. My biggest thing with Brian Kelly, it's not that you couldn't run the ball. John Emery averaged over 6 yards.
6 yards a carry. Yeah.
You had 22 carries in the whole game. That's it. You refused.
You refused to give the ball. And at 6 yards per carry, that's an indictment on your coaching ability.
Rest in peace to John Emery, by the way.
True.
He's done.
He's done.
That's
right.
Cooked.
That's right.
ACL torn.
That's
in practice.
Man. That's right.
I felt so bad for the kid.
I do too.
Hey,
I hurt my feelings for the kid.
Chris, will you say this right here? That $9.99
more. He gotta spell my name right for me to acknowledge that, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate that I cannot hear Chris, and I have no clue why. That is the weirdest thing in the world. I am the
don't
only
know.
That is weird.
Hey,
Maybe-
Chris.
I cannot hear him.
Yeah,
Hey,
maybe
Chris.
hop
Why don't you
out,
drop
hop back
off,
in.
Chris, and then come back on?
And then we'll each do it one by one.
Nah, it's good.
And
It's,
so we
it's,
play
it's
musical
only
chairs.
Chris. It's only
Um,
Chris.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I couldn't hear. I had to go listen to the actual playback on YouTube to hear what he was saying.
Yeah.
So let's,
That is wild.
Let's talk
hit-
about Georgia, man. You guys talk about Georgia?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
jury's still very much well out on
he
USC's
is.
defense, but they do look improved. But I'll tell you what, guys.
And I got his face now.
And I said this in the Bleacher Report stream. First thing I said about Clemson, they have problems. Now, do you want to know where I was wrong, guys? I said they were the type of problems that 90% of college football would love to have. That's where I was wrong. They got problems, and they'll still be a good team, but this is not your Clemson of old.
Nope.
That offense is terrible. The play calling was terrible. Trying to keep doing Cade Klubnik on those zone reads was god-awful.
Wow.
That was pathetic.
Let me add to that real quick, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Josh Pate on this because he made a fantastic point. Could you imagine Cameron Ward in that offense? How he could have overcome everything that Clay Klubnik
Because they got talent.
could not.
Hey, but
Right.
that's the thing.
Right.
Clemson
Right.
has talent. Actually, if you go and watch the game, Clemson kind of kept the game close.
That defense is really good.
Their defense is really good. The problem
Peter
with Clemson
Woods.
is
Don't.
I know. Ty said
Sorry,
about
Ty.
that one.
Yeah, you can't say that word in front of Ty, man. Y'all know y'all gonna hurt
Sorry.
that man's
My
feelings.
bad.
Look at
My
him.
bad.
He's sorry.
I'll go
That
back.
dude got to have a
Look at
heart attack now.
Look
Look
at
at him.
I'm sorry.
He got to go smoke a cigar now.
I
Go ahead and
know,
smoke a
man.
cigar to relax his soul. I'm sorry,
Ty, forgive
man.
me.
Don't get you a black him out, dog. Hey, the problem with Clemson is Dabo
You did the man
not
dirty.
using the freaking portal is what has made that team not as deep as what they could be. You know what I'm saying? Like if Clemson were to use the portal, some of those guys that are starting on that team should probably not be starting, but you would have some guys like, let's say, for instance, Texas brings in an Isaiah Bond, right? Bond comes in, he's the starter at Texas. That is holding back a guy like Jonte Cook, who could be balling out right now, but he's on the second string. You got guys like Golden, who's there, who's holding somebody else. Clemson did not hit the portal. They don't have the depth that they should. And what Dabo is doing, he is doing what Arkansas and the Ole Misses do, which is they bring in the talent, they build it up, and every fourth or fifth year they're going to be good. But you can't afford to do
Like
that.
Kentucky and Oklahoma State. Yes.
You're Clemson. You have 2 championships. You've had 2 of the best quarterbacks in college football over the last 20 to 30 years on your team. You can't afford to do that, Clemson. You got to get with the times. You can't have a good team every 4 or 5 years. You're making $10 to $12 million a year, Dabo.
Your
You
job
need
is to
to
be
hit
good
the portal.
every year.
You got to be good every year and be
Yeah.
expected to compete in your conference and win your conference every year and go to the playoffs every year. Yeah, Chris, go ahead, man.
I had a Clemson fan tell me one time that they wouldn't miss Venables, they wouldn't miss all those guys, and that's not to sit here and say that Venables is all world or this and that. It's simply to say they lost freaking T. Higgins, guys that they were getting like Mike Williams. Obviously, we can talk about as Nick would love to say transcendent quarterbacks that they had as well. But when you're losing your best recruiters, guys like Bates and Venables, guys like that who are on your staff, whenever you have that whole philosophy that you have, and where there's a team recruiting, not just one single guy on the recruiting trail recruiting that kid, when you're losing those guys right there, you lose. Now, that's not to say that Clemson has lost crazy steps on defense, because Clemson's defense is still, I mean, for the first part of that game, they played really damn well.
Yeah.
The problem was just kind of like in the Texas A&M game. You got to do something offensively, because at some point they're going to break. They can't keep this wall up that you want them to have up, right? So at the end of the day, Dabo has lost a lot on the coaching staff, and from continuity purposes on the coaching staff to just the talent that he had offensively as well. You don't have those 6'4" guys that, even at times, there would be some times where Trevor Lawrence would just throw the ball up, Higgins and all of them, because they're so tall and athletic, just catching balls. Justin Ross, guys like that, they're not there on the field anymore. Now, coming into the season,
too as well.
coming into the season, I thought Antonio Williams would have a crazy year. I still think that he's going to have a really good year. I think the kid is really good. I remember seeing him his freshman year, especially in that Duke game where he was one of their only bright spots that they had, and he was just a freshman there. But you saw it kind of throughout the season in spurts. But I don't necessarily know. I don't think Dabo's a bad coach. Don't think he's bad for the philosophy that he wants. But at the end of the day, guys like Keon Coleman and guys like that don't typically go to a Florida State if Clemson is on top and Clemson is doing what they want to do. So the fact that you missed out on them, I mean, we could go back to Cam Ward. There's a lot of guys. Because Klubnik, as good as we thought he was coming out of high school,
absolutely not.
It's just,
Let me jump in there. Let me jump in.
I don't know. Go ahead.
I want to jump in on the Klubnik thing.
Go ahead,
because I have a few thoughts here. So, Cade Klubnik, I do not recognize you. The guy I saw at Westlake, the guy that was, going undefeated, even Westlake, they were loaded at that time, and they were spamming Jaden Greathouse and all this type of stuff. Like I get it to a certain degree, but like him, even athletically, I don't recognize him at all.
He reminded the people over at 247 as Zach Wilson.
Yes,
that tells me enough.
That tells me enough.
But I want to say this. I want to say this though. Clemson is doing a horrible job with quarterback development. These guys are coming in there and they're their best their freshman year. DJU was his best his freshman year when he had to replace Trevor Lawrence for a game. That was the best I've ever seen DJU really actually look when they played the game at Notre Dame. Trevor Lawrence. Let's go back to Trevor Lawrence.
He was best his freshman year.
Could you actually say that Trevor Lawrence got better at Clemson as good as he was?
He regressed. He did. So
was it him or was it? And that's Stephen. This is the question. The many questions.
Losing Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott.
Yeah, was it the offensive?
No, that's what Stephen's getting at.
Everything that you're saying, I don't disagree with you on. But Stephen, is the issue that Dabo won't let go of control of the offense because I don't know what Garrett Riley is calling. That's not Garrett Riley's offense.
It's Chris, not Garrett Riley's system. No,
that is so true, Chris. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this isn't the Riley system. Like once I saw that game, I was like, what is this? What is this? And also, man, hey, Stephen Houston, I wanna talk about this comment. They don't miss, Venables, which is look, man. I'm not going to sit here and talk a mess about BV. BV is one of the greatest minds in this generation of defense in college football. You got to get him in his props. I'm not going to say that they don't miss him. Of course, you can't have a guy like that who's been the continuity of the program on that side of the ball for years. The guy leaves and takes another job, and you don't miss him, guys. Let's call a spade a spade. Right.
Well, and can I raise you one on this?
Yeah.
And then I want to pass it back to Stephen. And Stephen, I apologize for this.
Yes,
I have a goldfish mind, and if I don't say this now, I'm going to forget. Which you miss because Clemson is very lucky that they lost a guy like Venables and then got a guy that's still a really good
coordinator. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they missed the recruiter that Venables was. Did y'all know at one time when Venables was there, they had Jahad Campbell, Dalen Everett, and Keon Sabb in that class? I don't know if y'all just peeped Jahad Campbell. He's going to be a day one draft pick. Keon Sabb just started off the year with 2 interceptions, and Dalen Everett's out there doing his thing. When Venables left Clemson, all 3 of those guys left the class.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Difference makers in the class.
But that's the depth that we're talking about now, right? So you think about what if those guys were still at Clemson who are taking somebody's spot on the defensive side of the ball. Now those guys who are playing right now are your depth. That if something happens and these guys got to, they have to get expelled in the third and fourth quarter, you don't have Georgia run the game up and score 28 points in the second half and only score 6 in the first, right? They don't have the depth and the offensive side of the ball, like Chris said. That's not a Riley system. I don't know what the hell that was. And Dabo's in some trouble, man. He's in some trouble. He's been in trouble for the last 3 years. And, I don't know. This isn't the Clemson that we're used to. Is Dabo just a product of the quarterbacks that he's had, the transcendent quarterbacks he's had? or is it something deeper, guys? What do you guys think?
And the coaches too. I
And
mean,
the coaches,
BV and
yeah,
them, he ate off of their success. I mean, that defensive line that BV and them had, that Christian Wilkins group,
Yeah.
right, with Cleveland Farrell and all them, that was one of the greatest defensive lines in modern college football, right? Like,
Yeah.
they were
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
win a
Oh,
natty,
man. Oh, yeah. They were good.
you know.
But then also we had the ultimate eraser on offense in Watson. And like Chris said, you got the T. Higgins and the Mike Williams who, they were throwing the ball to, and the Rosses and running backs, with the Trevor, man, they had squads. I mean, they had absolute squads, right?
There's still some
Squads.
talent. There's still some talent there. Like Maffa's not a bad back.
No,
I mean,
they have a mix of hangover talent and talent that they've recruited, and that's what I'm saying. Defensively, I'm not saying that they've missed a step. They're still running the 3-3-5 to perfection. Hell, as an OU fan, I think I can speak for some other OU fans. When we were running that shit, we were looking at them like, oh, okay, so that's what it's going to look like, right? That's what it's supposed to look like. I mean, I think if we're just being fully transparent, but the fact of the matter is that, like I said, from that missing those big recruiters, not just BV but Bates. Yeah. I mean, missing those in-house guys that you had there that are now on OU staff, the Zach Alleys and all these up-and-comers or whatever that you guys saw there getting tapped now for these jobs. They were able to overcome anything that Tony Elliott, the other guy that was before him, or, now. But it just feels like when I'm watching Clemson, I just feel like with Riley's offense, at least the variation of it that he was running at TCU, it felt like, hey man, he's throwing there. He has I forgot what old boy's name was at TCU, but they're just throwing to an area. They're not even throwing to the guy. They're just throwing to an area.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston. The guy.
Yeah, they know these guys are open. Savion, Williams, and all
Williams.
That. Like now going to this right here, it's like, when you watch Klubnik, it feels like, one, he's running out of the pocket way too soon, and two, he's eyeing everybody. He's staring
him down. Yeah, he's staring him down. Now, hey, Chris and Ty, you guys can, kind of back me up on this. I've been making this same comment that CB is saying right here, that Joel Klatt compared Clemson to 2010 Texas. I've been making this comment about Dabo. I said Dabo is Mac Brown from after they lost against Alabama, where you get stubborn, you don't want to make the changes, you want to do things your way, you're trying to mold the program, you're not keeping up with the times. And CB, great comment, because I've been making this comment for about 6 months now, if not longer, that this Clemson team, and well, not the Clemson team, but Dabo as a whole, reminds me so much of Mac Brown after we lost to Alabama in 2010.
He's going to have to clean it up in a very suspect ACC. That's the only thing that might save him, that conference right now. After Virginia, shout out to Vanderbilt and what they exposed with Virginia Tech. But I want to say this.
I pray to God they're better at football than they are litigation, because those lawsuits aren't looking any good either.
I do want to say this, though, because we are the SEC Connect, and we need to talk about Georgia.
Let's talk about Georgia. Yeah, because
we need to talk about Georgia because the stink of Clemson, masked us from some real things that we were noticing about Georgia that we were all texting about. Yeah. Right? Like, they obviously miss Bowers and Ladd McConkey. Like, there's no secret. We know that they have brothers on suspension. Yeah. Right. And shout out to Ty. Ty said that Frazier would step up. At running back, the freshman, and he did. And they eventually got it going, and they won the football game handily. The defense is on point, as it always is. No doubt about it. I want to emphasize, though, that Georgia looks beatable.
Very.
If you're really good. They look beatable. Okay? This is not the Georgia from a couple years ago, even with Stetson and all them. They were really slow to get it going. The defense is still legit. Don't get it twisted, okay? And they're going to be a tough out for anybody. But I wasn't overly impressed with Georgia, especially offensively, watching that football game, me personally.
Yes, yeah, Steven. Go.
Well, I'll just say this very quickly. As a Bama fan, I'm happy. And it's a double-edged sword. But I'm kind of happy that Bama plays them earlier in the year than later, because Bama's undergoing a lot of new as well. But this is the schematic matchup between DeBoer's offense and Kirby's defense is going to be fireworks. Let's be honest. Same thing I've said about Sark and Georgia, right? Like that's going to be must-watch TV, watching that battle from the schematic standpoint. But I would rather play Georgia before they start figuring things out offensively, because I'm not sure about the wide receiver talent. I'm not saying those guys are bad. They're good. But they don't have, they don't have some of the previous guys they've had on the outside. Delp is still damn good. He's still an issue. I'll stand by that. But I would much rather play Georgia earlier than playing them later in the season when they
do find some of those guys.
Yeah.
I agree.
When they step up. Now, the flip side, if you're a Georgia fan and you're listening to this, is, we get to play Bama before the offense is like they're still implementing wrinkles in the defense because Bama's on a full transition. And you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. It works both ways here, right? Like you'd rather play each other right when they are. But love that. I agree. Defensively, I got to give a shout out to Malachi Starks. Holy hell,
Dude,
man.
that interception. Oh my God.
He's a hell of a player, man.
And just
Hell
think
of
of
a player.
it, man, hey, I'm so glad Caleb Downs decided not to go to Georgia because that would have been just nasty.
Imagine?
I don't want to. I would prefer not to.
No fly zone.
Can we
dude.
just not even imagine it?
I am so glad that did not happen. Malachi Starks and Caleb Downs would have been just god awful good. But
thank God that they did what they did to Josh Downs.
Yeah.
Shout out Kirby.
Exactly.
Ty, now you know that I was talking to what was it, Coach I?
Yeah.
Was that
Coach
the one?
I.
Yeah. You know that I had been talking to Coach I about that. I've been in his ear about that for the longest because again, I'm gonna take this out of Nick's book because Nick would love to say this to me a few years ago. When you lose a transcendent guy like Bowers, and then you expect just to be this top offensive team and running, doing all the rest of this stuff.
I say transcendent quarterbacks.
I know, but I'm
not
using
other players.
the word though. Chill out over there. Chill out over there. You got to understand what I'm doing. Anyways, well, when you lose a guy like Bowers who's running jet sweeps and all the rest of that stuff, I mean, come on, man. You're not. I don't care how good your tight ends are. You're not replacing that because you ran none of that during that game, and Clemson's defense is good.
Clemson's defense is very good. They have multiple guys on that defensive front who will be playing on Sundays, right? And I'm not going to say one of the names, but you already know.
And the only thing that I say
this
is,
man's hurt.
He's
so hurt.
Are we overreacting to the offense because ETN wasn't out there? And the reason why, but I don't know.
I don't.
That's a caveat I threw out there too, Chris.
Well, you can say that, but here's the exception to that is the fact that we all know on here that Kirby is going to run at least 3 or 4 running backs into the ground this year. We already know that rotation is always deep because they will come out there running 3 straight plays with like Milton and then come back with
Rod Robinson is
Cook,
the one,
right? Yeah, I'm just talking about like
interested
pass players, but they will do that. We know they will do that, but I think they have the speed. They've always had the speed. They've always had all of this on the perimeter. I just have never seen them let it go because I feel like I don't necessarily know if Bobo was going to do that because they were like.
It's not a sexy offense. It's very much like what I call a factory offense, where it's just like. It's like an assembly line offense, right? Where it's like, okay, this, then this, then this, then this. It's not sexy.
It's a system. Yeah,
it's a system.
It's like Bill Belichick, just boring and just
boring
go out
system,
there and
but it works.
But
look, this is like so. This actually brings to this comment here, from Steven, where it says Georgia always looks beatable. They don't blow many teams out. Auburn and Georgia Tech had them on the ropes last year, and in the previous years, Georgia is true. Kirby is built like how Saban built his teams prior to getting the Sarks and the Lane Kiffins, right? Where Saban would dominate you and win games 21-3, and you're like, that was a horrible game to watch, but it was dominant, right? Like even like the LSU championship game.
That's a good analogy.
Where like LSU didn't cross the 50, but like one time the entire game, and it was like it was a boring game, but like the final score is what, Todd, 21-7 or something like that. I mean, it was a boring game, but it was a dominant game from Alabama, and that's how Kirby has built his teams, in my opinion. So they never look overly dominant unless they play like Lane Kiffin, where they went what was that 2-17 last year?
I'm just scared that we see more of what we saw in the Jake Fromm years than we've seen with these other teams that have been just imposing on other teams. That's just my thoughts, offensively at least.
It's going to be interesting though, because one thing about Georgia, we know that the talent's there. The defense is going to be the defense, right? Georgia's going to always field a great defense. This Kirby's calling card. Kirby is going to get beat a couple times, I think, this year. Once or twice this year. He has a tough schedule. He doesn't have the
SEC East.
Yeah, he
The
doesn't have
SEC least.
Yeah, he doesn't have that cookie cutter schedule that he's always had, and so Kirby has said it, last year, this year as well, how his players are always mad that they get these easy schedules because people don't believe in them. Well, you got what you asked for. Make people believe you now. Okay, so look, there is no SEC league schedule anymore. You're going to have to play all the big dogs this year. They got a tough schedule. And so I think that we're going to see them maybe drop a game or two, but it's not going to say anything bad about Kirby and them. It's just that the talent level that they're going to be playing week in and week out is going to be completely different than what they've played over the last 3 to 4 years, but they're still a great team.
I think Georgia has the personnel, though, to be a more explosive, exciting offense. I think there's a comment there about Kirby misses Todd Monken. I'm starting to feel the loss of Monken and his impact.
Yeah, I see that.
On the offense. No disrespect to Bobo, but he's not Monken, right?
Yeah.
If Bobo was Monken, Bobo would be getting job offers from all over the place. There's a reason why they were able to go back in-house and get him, right? So you're kind of seeing that. Now, the flip side of that is you got to force Georgia's hand. If you don't put points on the board, what's the point of that? Why do they need to turn up?
Exactly.
Right? Somebody needs to come out there and put 14 on the board early, right? And it could be, does Georgia play Tennessee this year?
I think they
believe they do.
I don't. Do
Hold
they?
on, I'm gonna check right now.
It could.
They do.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah,
So
do.
look. Georgia's schedule.
Yep.
Alabama can
Tennessee
come in.
comes there in November 16th. Tennessee comes to town.
And they come to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, they
in a
got
few weeks.
4th game of the season. They got Bama. Bama could run the score up on them, and then they got to go play. And then 2 games after, not 2 games, 3 games after that, you got Texas. Then after that, you got Ole Miss. You got Ole Miss at
on
Ole
the
Miss.
road.
You got Tennessee.
Those are all quarterbacks
right
and
after
teams that can put 14 up in the first quarter
Easy.
very quickly,
Yep.
right? As good as the Georgia D. No disrespect to Georgia D. But you're not going to be lights out every single week. Shut out, right? Like there's going to be somebody that gets a touchdown or something, and it's like, hey,
somebody's offense is good enough to do that.
Yeah. And now Bobo and you guys need to freaking play real offense now. I can't chill, right? So that's what I'm curious to see.
There are going to be a couple of games this year where Beck has to put this team on his back, and they have to go from there. It can't just be defense,
or even just run the ball.
He's going to have to elevate his play. I mean, there's select guys that I put in that category. Hell, I even put Quinn Ewers in that. That's not even being disrespect. That's just being for real. Like there's certain games on your schedule, on a lot of teams' schedule, where you're like, hey, our best player or our best players, they're gonna have to will this team to win because there's some really tough games. I think what we all need to understand, this panel and everybody, the 12-game playoff has changed every single thing. Schedule wise, player wise, team wise, everything. It's changed the entire outlook. And Steven, I think we were on disconnected. I'll give you that. USC defense looked like it improved, but what I'm saying is this right here. The 12-team playoff has caused me to understand something, and maybe you guys agree to disagree. Every team in week 1 that looked bad is not going to be bad for the rest of the year, but every team that looked elite in the week 1 is not going to be elite week 1. You can say that.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
I
because
agree.
of this 12-game playoff, it has totally changed the landscape of college football, and that is something I think people don't truly take time to really unpack.
Except for Florida State, they're cooked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
so yeah, there's certain teams that like, and I think I texted you guys, right? Like, there's certain teams, and if you listen to like Bill Simmons' podcast when he talks about NFL, like they'll every week him and Cousin Sal will just do the teams like we're just out on them. Like I don't need to watch any more of you. I'm out on you, right? Like Florida's one of those teams, right? Like it's just like I don't need to see anything else. I'm
Florida
out,
State,
right?
done.
I'm done. I don't need like there's certain teams that you saw last week where you're like, yo, I'm in, right? Like Nico, I'm in. Sign me up.
Oh, he looks good.
I don't care who they played. He looked great. I'm in, right? Like there's certain things where you just
stupid.
My eye don't lie to me, right? And so I'm with you, Christo, in terms of the long stretch, because I think that leads us to the last marquee game, which may be the most important game in terms of the playoff ramifications of the 12 team.
Yeah,
which was Notre Dame going to Texas A&M and winning at Kyle Field with those baby offensive linemen that couldn't even get their stuff together half the time. And Riley Leonard,
they're playing with freshmen and sophomores on the offensive line.
Dude, they had
there
two true freshmen playing and two true freshmen and
Such
3
an
sophomore playing
win, man.
with only 6 starts in between those 5 guys and went in there to Kyle Field and won that damn game. Hey, Elko,
Belt.
offense, yeah, BTA, belt to ass. Elko, that offense is looking mighty like Jimbo's.
No. Here is the issue. Here is the issue.
I'm gonna call it what it is.
Here is the issue. We said it earlier, right? We said, hey, look, Weigman, everybody on offense, please, like y'all got to do something because the dam is about to break. It literally is water leaks all over the place. But I will say this right here: the thing that pisses me off about Elko is the fact that he went out there and hired somebody who's going to play close to the damn veil. Now, has everybody on this panel outside of Ty had their certain issues, certain drives, certain plays, certain different things where Klein has got the best of you? Yes. Klein coming to the SEC, going to you know what? I agree with you, Nick. It is a broken record simply because Klein does not call any game. He has no explosive plays in his game plan. He has no explosive scheme, no nothing. He will try to dress it up, try to give you all this eye candy just to throw the ball to the flat or just to move the ball for 6 yards.
I can't give you anything on Klein. Bama played them once and beat their ass off.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But Colin Klein
Chris,
coming as your offensive coordinator pissed me off to the core.
Exactly.
I just stay quiet about it because I trusted Elko's defense, which I still do. But Klein pisses me off as an offensive coordinator.
But Chris, I will say this: you're not wrong. I will say though, if this is what they're gonna do and they're gonna run the Colin Klein offense, they have the wrong quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
it needs to be Marcel Reed. It needs at least get the runner in there.
Steven, I've said that last week. Remember, I said Colin Klein's offense is predicated on him having the crash test dummy at quarterback. He needs a guy that's going to be able to use his feet.
He needs to play Marcel Reed then.
And somebody that, I shouldn't say crash test dummy, but somebody who is going to be smart with running the ball, but run physical. You know what I'm saying? They got to be a physical runner, and he has to have great running backs behind him, like a la Deuce Vaughn over the past 4 years. Yeah. They just lost Reuben Owens. Now, I know Aiden has a deep room, but they just lost Reuben Owens, and you do not have a quarterback that is a la like a Colin Klein when he played at Kansas State. Colin Klein could throw the ball, but his main thing was using his feet, and that's the offense that he knows, and I think he's trying to replicate that, but he does not have the personnel at the quarterback position and at running back right now, losing Owens, to execute the offense he wants to execute. But if you're going to do that, and you're the any offensive coordinator worth a damn, you have to understand that you have to adjust to the personnel you have there on campus. You know what I'm saying? And you know that Weigman is your guy. And if he's going to be your guy, you have to adjust that offense to work with what you have on campus. Look at Lincoln Riley with what he did when old boy got hurt. When he had Rattler. Rattler and Caleb are two different quarterbacks, people. When he snatched Rattler out and put Caleb in, he changed that offense to mold around what he has. Right? Miller Moss is different from Kyler Murray. He's different from Baker Mayfield. He's different from Caleb and and Spencer Rattler. But he molded that offense at USC around Miller Moss, and we saw this kid throw for 380 yards damn near. Colin Klein, if you work for them, you got to mold your offense to the talent that you have during the team and not try to put a square peg in a round hole.
Do they have weapons, though? Do they miss Evan Stewart? Do they have people that can get separation?
Hell yeah. Anybody would miss Evan Stewart.
I thought I ain't gonna lie, I raised my hand. Jay, I would definitely want to hear your thoughts about this game, but I'll raise my hand. I thought Noah Thomas was going to be
Oh, I did too. And that's before Jay, you go, I just have one last thing to say. We're going to get cooked on Friday. Predicting Notre Dame to lose this game. We're going to get cooked. And you know what? I'm going to be like that depressed crab that throws themselves into the boiling water. I'm here for it.
Look, we've already got people tweeting at us with their pictures of USC winning the game and then the peace on and shit. So I expect even more.
Have you seen the comments from Bleacher Report? We got
roasted. Hey, man, look. When you're dealing with a young offensive line, a new quarterback, going against a defensive line that's supposed to be experienced, you don't expect this. But, geez, I'm trying to figure out, why did I let anybody convince me when I knew better that Connor Weigman wasn't ish? I knew it. I knew it from day one. But I kept letting people tell me, no, Jay, check him out. I'm telling you, Jay, he had a solid season. If he just had this, he just do that. Nah, I knew he was ass when I watched him last year, and I let people convince me otherwise.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say all that.
Lesson, trust your eye, folks.
No, Jay, I think we were all blinded by the Jimbo offense. So we thought Haynes Kings was ass until he goes out to Georgia Tech and does this.
Is he throwing the ball at Georgia Tech?
But it doesn't matter.
It does.
They did what you said, Nick, was they molded the offense around him.
Yeah, they ran the damn ball down your throat. That's what they did. That's the point. That's my point.
Well, it's not that, Jay, I even thought that Weigman was the guy. I was just sitting here looking at it saying, okay, good defensive line, offensive line that might very well be good. I don't know, but it's because I don't know. I have to go with what I do know. And it just turns out that A&M offense is garbage.
Yes, that's it.
Garbage.
You know what? I'm going to vouch.
Also, Notre Dame's defense is ridiculously good. I don't want to be disrespectful here.
Yes.
I'm going to vouch for us. I'm going to vouch for me, Nick, Steven, and Ty, because I think all of us were on this channel and on our separate channels saying, hey, there's not a lot of spring games out there where you could really take a lot from, but this A&M spring game.
Oh yeah,
they look
everything you thought they were. They were.
Yeah, every one of us. Only reason why I said Connor Weigman was good because I was like, well, hell, he's better than Max Johnson and Haynes King.
Haynes King out here. I mean, looking at Haynes King's number for Ja Tech against Florida State, 11 for 16, 146, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 14 carries for 64 yards. They basically just ran it down people's throat. And they just had him pitch and catch every blue moon, right? Yes, of course, Georgia State, he threw for 275. But my point, once their schedule gets going, once their schedule is going to Georgia Tech, that Syracuse game, that dude might throw 100 yards. Fran Brown may have that dude in cuffs.
And cuffs. You're right.
I just think it's crazy. I just think it's crazy that some people had Connor Weigman in the top 5 and top 3 of quarterbacks in the SEC.
I didn't see where that was coming from.
I didn't understand that. There were some of these polls out here where I'm like, I don't, especially not like I didn't pay enough attention to the Colin Klein thing and really thinking about the scheme at Kansas State.
Yeah, I was
because now it's like, damn, Marcel Reed really needs to be the quarterback.
It's a weird.
I feel so dumb now that I think.
I'm just saying, like, is there ever a time that he played OU or Texas where you felt like, damn, that was an explosive play? That was explosive. You would see that against like Okie Light, and all those other teams where like Will Howard actually looked like a functional quarterback. I don't know what's going on up there.
They were rotating Will Howard and the other kid,
Adrian
before
Martinez.
Adrian Martinez.
And now Will Howard.
They had a
is-
veteran
yeah.
quarterback that could run like crazy on his own. Basically, you need a dude that's going to be able to create on his own without you having to make it for them, right?
Yeah.
That's what Adrian was
Little
Yeah.
improv.
at the collegiate level, right? You just give him the ball and somehow he figures shit out, right? Oh my gosh, why did we let anybody convince us that Weigman was anything? Why did we do that to ourselves?
Outside of Menzel, A&M has never. Hey man, put some respect
McNeil.
on Reggie McNeil's name, man.
Reggie McNeil was nasty, dog.
Put some
I
still hate his
know
guts.
it was damn near a hand, like already a deal in just in the waiting with Riley and in Notre Dame. But you got to think Elko had to call and say, "Hey, man."
Yeah, that's my. He fits Colin Klein's offense to a T.
Yeah.
Like
was
that's a Colin
Colin
Klein
Klein.
quarterback.
They were running
That's-
QB power. They ran QB power, and then got robbed by the refs with the brother's whole body got the first down.
You guys sure did. I was like, they're gonna steal this game from this man.
Yeah, Martinez was cold. Adrian
Yeah.
Martinez was cold.
Yeah, man, he was
so cold.
You know the player that we can go back to that you still say because he comes up in a lot of teams conversations.
Yeah.
You could have went and got Cam Ward with all of that money.
Dog, man. See,
Hey, man,
that's
I don't wanna
why
hear
I'm
that.
still pissed
No.
at freaking Dabo Sweeney for not going at. That's your quarterback. Cam Ward is going to be nasty.
He's gonna be nasty.
Miami's
man.
probably going to win because they have enough talent for him to not have to do everything the entire year. That was the
That's
problem with Washington
why-
State.
That's why Cam Ward is smart though. I'm not going somewhere with no weapons, bro. I'm going somewhere, bro. Y'all got Restrepo. Oh, my man from Oregon State coming
Martinez
with me
followed.
too.
Martinez
Martinez coming
watching
through.
him. That dude was
Oh,
a
I
pain
got
in
a
my
tight
butt.
end.
Yeah,
I got a tight end in Arroyo.
Hey, bruh, he
We
knew.
getting
He
this
knew.
cuz from Houston that runs 4.3. Oh, bro,
Bird,
we good.
I'm in. Sign me up 2 times. Because
me
let's think
up.
about it. Cam Ward leaving from Incarnate Word in Houston, going up there to Washington State. He did what he could with what was around him. And he made the most of the talent around him. But the problem was as the season went on, teams figured out how to keep it painful for him because the skills guys just weren't good enough. But like you said, Steven, he said,
AJ.
looked at Miami and said, oh.
AJ, guess what? Guess what team was one of the first teams to stop Cam Ward when he was in the Pac-12 last year? It was UCLA.
It sure was.
And
It was
who's
Lynn.
And who's the DC at UCLA? And where's he at
Lynn.
now?
He's at USC. He's Lynn. He knows how to do it, man.
Yeah, he's
That
one of the
man's
first
a
ones
good-
to figure him
he's a
out.
good
He's one of
coach.
the first ones to figure him out.
He's a good coach, man.
Yeah,
He's a good
I think he held him to 17 points and
But now he's in a
on him.
situation where Cam Ward's going to have games where he doesn't need to throw for 250. They're going to run the
That's
ball.
the part.
yeah,
That's
Washington
the point.
State, he had to. Now
Right.
he won't have to do that in Miami. He can get a
Sure.
ball to Martinez. Because let's think about it. Once you key in on Ward too much, you get a ball to Martinez. It's over.
it's a wrap.
deal.
It's a
And
wrap.
so that for Texas A&M, they don't have a running back right now, and because of that,
That's why
Weigman is not going to be any good whatsoever.
That's why Riley. It was the perfect marriage. I don't know what Elko was doing to not bring his quarterback. With
He come off that injury, man. He probably was scared. I mean, perfect example. Perfect example. Notre Dame brought in Sam Hartman last year, right? He was
Yeah.
in his 14th year in college football. So you figured he's seen every single defense ever created, and he was not that good. Like, he was not good enough to
Devin
win
Leary.
games. So
Devin Leary. Yeah, that's it.
so they thought that, okay, we'll bring in Riley Leonard, and then A&M's probably like, oh, he's going Notre Dame? He must be cooked. Because they don't have to do a very good job of evaluating quarterbacks to replace.
And he's the reason why they won the game.
In all fairness, Sam Howell had moments last year, just could never be consistent, which is what was crazy because he had a crazy game. I know it's just Northwestern, but he had a really good game that first game of the
That
season.
first week he looked
that
good.
kind of set the tone.
I get it.
Here's some bonus content for you people. Now we get to see, and I love this for Marcus Freeman. Big fan of Marcus Freeman. This was a big win for them.
Big win.
On the road. This was a big
Well,
win.
he needed that. He needed that.
And
That saved his
and
job.
let's give some
But
flowers
the
to this
bigger-
Notre Dame defense as well.
Yeah.
Like they are
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Now
They're legit.
Weigman and A&M's offense is ass, but like
Cook and Co.
Todd,
Grayson McCall this year is reading defenses like Mitch Trubisky. That's hilarious.
Here's the thing.
we
Here's
got
the
more
thing.
money.
And hopefully the panel will back me up on this. Freeman, my only advice to you is this right here. You want a big game. You got Northern Illinois this week. Please, no Marshalls, no none of those games. We don't want to see you go out there and
Good
win
point.
a big game and then do what Notre Dame does
point.
best, which is go and either drop a game or play
Or make
really
it close.
bad
they can't afford to drop a game.
against
No, they
a
can't.
crap team.
They can't.
They got probably the easiest schedule to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
After this game is over,
They're favored in every game left they have on their schedule. They
And they-
really could go undefeated.
I love the addition of Riley Leonard.
Same with
so great.
Miami. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yes.
Same with Miami. They don't necessarily have a tough schedule outside of well, you thought Florida State would be a tough game, possibly.
they are going to skull drag Florida State.
Syracuse,
They are.
it's crazy because Syracuse may
man,
prove
it's
to
gonna
be
be so
the tougher
bad.
game out of the two.
It's gonna be damaging. Hey, yo, Sergeant Duck, man, thanks for the $5 holla, man.
Appreciate
he
that,
said
Duck.
Dabo needs to retire. He won't change his stance in the portal. He just needs to give up and retire. Yeah, man, we already kind of addressed that. Dabo's fallen behind the times. Reminds me of Mac Brown from 2010. Yeah, man, but thanks for that, bro. Yeah, man, it's gonna be very interesting, man. Riley Leonard was a great pickup for them. A&M's probably kicking themselves in the ass for not even like taking a flyer out on him because he is the quarterback that fits a Colin Klein system. That he is that quarterback.
He's
To
that
me,
dude.
he kind of reminds me of Colin Klein when he was in school. He's
that's a
like
good
Colin
point.
Klein with a better arm.
Steven also has a great point. The big miss in the portal this year for quarterbacks was Diego Pavia.
Oh my God.
Randy.
Oh
My.
my God.
Oh, man.
Yes. Diego was a big miss. by a
How
lot
did
of
I
teams.
mean? How did that happen?
Well, he walked into Auburn, beat their ass, then threatened to beat the team up in the parking lot. Like, it's
A
one
little
of the
thuggish,
Inside
man. I
Texas
like that.
guys had a great little addition I saw or a little addition about Diego Pavia. They were doing their Twitter, YouTube stream, and he was talking about how much he likes them, kind of telling some stories about Pavia. And it was really interesting, but he's 100% right. That was a huge miss. That was a huge miss.
They actually beat up on Virginia Tech a little. I know the game went to overtime and VTech fought back, but they jumped on them.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt looked like they were physical.
They like an SEC team.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like
That's what it is.
and I wish I was on here last week because I was like, man, 13
That's
and a
right.
half.
That's right. You weren't here.
Virginia Tech? What? That is
man.
not like I could smell
You know
it a
when
mile away.
when I started
That was a
getting
very low
concerned?
spread. I agree.
You know when I started getting concerned is when I looked and saw some of the additions that Vandy had made.
Mhm.
And like I
Yeah.
wasn't paying attention all off season because let's be honest, guys,
It's Vanderbilt.
it's Vandy. And then I started looking and thinking to myself, like, the only problem if you're Virginia Tech is you have no film on these cats together. Like, how are you going to defend them? Like,
Yeah.
you're just gonna have to go in there and figure it out. And that's when I started being like, I don't know. And granted, I probably still would have picked Virginia Tech to win because they were so experienced. Like, I completely understand everybody who picked Virginia Tech because they have like so much returning talent. But I would have never had them plus 13 over as a 13-point favorite over Vandy. Like, I completely agree with you on that, Steven. Like that right there was just ridiculous.
One quick thing
Clark Lee.
before we just touch on week 2 real quick.
Yeah.
I wanted to just point out so we spent all the time on the marquee games. There was 4 of them, and the SEC went 1-3 in those games. Take away with that what you want to. I agree with Chris. It's still early with the 12 team. Narratives are going to shape over time.
Yep.
I do want to say this though. I do think there's some small things we can take away from the other games in the SEC that we saw. Some that we can't, some we need to learn. But I South Carolina might not be good at all.
I know
Dylan
exactly where you're going.
Stewart is unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
But he ain't gonna be there next year.
Hey, if Beamer's not there, I was just about to say that. Steven. I thought we was about to get off there. I was about to say, y'all don't deserve him. I love Beamer ball. Y'all don't deserve that.
He ain't
kid.
gonna be there next year, man.
Dude,
Wow.
Dylan Stewart dude, the highest bidder, right, in the land, right?
You might hit the
price.
portal week 9. You might shut it down. Week 9 down, done.
Baby boy was out there, boy. Like they say,
I-
like a creative player out there. I was
He had
like,
the dip.
"Geez."
He had everything in there, man.
I think that was one thing for me. Like, I think the things that I note, like Nico stood out to me.
Nico did.
South Carolina being
Dylan
meh
Stewart, it's not real. It's he's fake. He's like
outside of Dylan
robot.
Stewart. I thought Kentucky looked pretty good.
Yeah, they didn't look bad.
I
Arkansas
mean, I know they had a
dominated.
really bad weather situation, but I
Yeah.
thought I'm like, okay, that Mark Stoops and them looking solid.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
what
did y'all
they
notice
did for
anything
Arkansas.
else from any of the other games or players or anything else y'all want to point out?
Arkansas's quarterback. He was electric to watch, man.
He is
So
But
much fun to watch.
But I gotta see it. Okay,
Shout
no
out
disrespect to
Steven
Arkansas
for
Pound
saying
Bluff,
that.
but I gotta see it.
We're gonna
against
find out this
somebody-
They
week.
got a
Yeah,
No,
big
this
game
week
this
we're gonna
week.
find
Hope
out.
you
I
right,
100% agree. I 100%
right.
agree on that. But like, it was so much fun to watch him go
Yeah.
out there and play some football. I had a blast with that.
Yeah, so that's gonna be.
Taylor Green's a fun player.
Yeah.
Can he
Yeah.
throw? Do any of you guys know if he can throw? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I want to pick him this weekend, but I'm like, can this dude throw?
The problem with him is, Chris, it's consistency. He can
Yeah.
throw. He has drop in the bucket throws from a mile away.
I knew
The
that
thing is his consistency.
I knew he had to do something. I was like, he has to do something to be a
said,
quarterback
"Can the
at
brother
Boise State. But I'm like, can he throw?
I know. I'm itching. I'm with you, Chris. I'm itching to pick Arkansas
I'm
over
itching
Oklahoma
to
State
pick
as
them.
well.
That
That game smells funny to me.
And the brother throw though.
Can he throw? That's it. Hey, I know that's for real. Me and my aunt, we were both talking. I was like, I gotta ask somebody,
No,
can he
no.
throw? I've never seen him throw before. I was
Can he
like,
throw the
maybe I
ball?
need to look him up at Boise because I was like, he didn't throw any that game.
He didn't.
I
Yeah,
know
but
he didn't.
He really did.
But did y'all anything else y'all notice from around the conference?
I'm
That
kind of
y'all
going
wanna
through the
Ryan
game.
Williams is not human.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Stop, Todd. I don't want to talk
Justin
about
Hayes
that right
looked
now.
really good,
Shut
too.
up, Todd. I don't want to know about
17 years old, two
any-
receptions,
catches,
140 yards, two
It's
tutties.
ridiculous, man. I don't
Should
want to
be
hear
in
about
physics right now.
it. Dude, man, he ain't even old enough to buy a pack of cigarettes yet. Man, I don't want to talk about that man, dog. He can't even buy a black cow yet.
Here's something for Ty. Auburn.
Yeah,
about
no, I mean, look, their freshman wide receivers I've never shied away from.
Oh,
They're very
Cam
good.
Coleman. Oh, Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
Yeah,
Cam
no, no,
Coleman's
no,
a
no.
problem. He's a
they're-
problem.
But it's not just Cam Coleman. Perry Thompson's very good. The other freshman wide
Yeah.
receiver they have, I don't know why I can't. He's very good. I'm not going to sit here though and say that Peyton Thorne figured it out yet because they played in HBCU,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like they played
I won't.
Alabama.
I will not overreact like
A&M.
that. I
And
agree.
yes, Bama played Western Kentucky, but for my real football guys and gals out there, Western Kentucky's defense is not good.
We know
Like
what Western Kentucky is. That's
But Western
Their offense is
Kentucky's
supposed to be good.
offense,
offensive, yeah.
they
It's
have
always been good.
always had really solid offensive scheme, right? Even if they don't have players, the scheme they employ is solid. So I can't even say I learned a bunch from Alabama's game, but no, I will not shy away at all from saying the freshman wide receivers at Auburn are a problem. They're great. They're great. And they
TJ
have a great
Finley
running back.
negates any scheme that Western Kentucky
Yes,
has.
that's pretty true.
Are we sure
That's true.
about that?
I'm not gonna lie, man. Like it wasn't as
PU.
terrible as I thought it would be with him. But you're right, man. Like they really did try and scheme some stuff up for him. When I was going back, they ran a bunch of mesh trying
Yeah.
to get guys open. But Bama's new defense is kind of very interesting. I don't know if y'all really watched it. I think that they're going to have a different package. Essentially, what they did is they had a wolf, two bandits, and a defensive tackle. As opposed to when you think of a 4-2-5, you think of having, in Texas terms, a Jack and X linebacker and then two defensive tackles. Bama basically had two Jack linebackers and an X linebacker and a defensive tackle for most of that game. Quay Russaw was flying around right? Like so I wonder, and Steven, I bring that up because I wonder if they were like, we don't worry about y'all running the ball between the tackles. You have a running back who's smaller, shiftier outside the tackles. We're going to go very light up front with a lot of athleticism, sideline to sideline, to negate anything that Finley can do experience-wise. But we'll find out more about Bama this week against USF. That veer and shoot offense is going to be a fun test for these young defensive backs, especially with the tempo they run.
Y'all owe him a
Who
lick,
y'all play
though.
this week?
USF.
Okay, yeah.
Y'all owe him a
Revenge game.
lick.
Oh, no, I want to see them beat the hell out of them. But but I'm also very excited because Golish comes from that Heupel veer and shoot.
Yep.
And I'm so happy that at least our young defensive backs get a. Don't get me wrong. If there's a Tennessee fan listening, yes, Tennessee's veer and shoot is exponentially more dangerous because you have a better quarterback who doesn't stare down receivers, and they have better wide receivers as opposed to USF. When I was watching the All-22 today, their quarterback has a tendency to stare down receivers, and we just saw what Keon Sabb did in this vision and break coverage as opposed to pattern match. But at least it's
Going all
good
technical,
tempo.
Look at you.
It's good tempo. Hey, you know what? Ole Miss, they won, what was it, 76-0?
Yeah, Dart
Right.
fucking put up how many yards in the first
Like,
half? Like
almost- It was
7,452.
ridiculous. What do you
Roughly,
finish
just
with?
under 7,400, about 6,900,
Yeah.
905. That's what it
That's
was.
what
You were
it was.
close.
That's what it was.
They got
My
they got a pretty, like a pretty light schedule for the first 4 weeks, man. I want to see what this team's going to do in about 4 weeks at Kentucky. But they beat the doors off Furman. There's nothing really to kind of look at. Usually, when you look at their next game, which is going to be Middle Tennessee, usually they're pretty decent. But I just would make a look. They barely got past Tennessee Tech.
Lane is gonna beat the hell out of these teams.
Yeah, he's gonna, and then he has Wake
The
Forest,
dog shit.
Tennessee. But yeah, Kentucky's going to be the first real test, I think, for them. I think they'll blow the doors off South Carolina. And then LSU is going to be the real test. I think they're going to be 6-0 prior to going to LSU.
Should be.
And that's going to be their real test. Does that team get moving? Does the mojo keep going here for 6 weeks? And then they just have us just a crazy slugfest in week 6, right? You know what I'm saying? So I want to see what Lane's going to do. There's a lot of pressure on him this year. He's paid a lot of money for those guys in the portal. They got a good squad that should be very competitive here for the back half of the season.
Well,
I have another. Oh, go ahead, Ty.
No, because mine was a throwaway comment. By all means, please.
I think. You guys play Houston this week, right?
Yep.
Houston stinks. And
No,
I
they
thought
don't. They're worse than stinks. They're not even like, let's be real here, dog.
Yeah,
Like Willie Fritz learned day one that
hoping.
he walked in and was like, "Dang, I gotta go ahead and demolish this entire area, take a nuclear bomb and blow it up, and actually leave the planet because I don't know if I'm going to be able to salvage any of this land. It's bad. Like it's
They got-
really
It's
bad
bad.
there.
I was kind of amazed how bad they got their ass beat in week 1.
Yeah.
Hey man, they scored a touchdown on the last play of the game
dude, the last play,
to UNLV.
27-0. Like
I remember. Well, Stephen, ask your question.
That's how bad it is.
Stephen, ask your question.
oh no, what I was gonna say is for OU, because I mean, how many competitive reps did you get out of the Temple game? I feel like it's gonna be the same thing with Houston. Like, I mean,
It's going to be scripted. It's going to be tested. It's going to
Yeah.
be just trying shit out. That's really what it's going to be. It's going
I
to be
mean,
annoying.
how much are you learning from these games? Right now,
Tulane
they're
is basically it.
Yeah, Tulane is going to be our best. I mean, I remember because I went to the game. Me and my uncle, we actually went to the game, and I leaned over to him. I said, kind of feel like they're teasing the playbook a little bit, just trying stuff out here and there with certain players or whatnot. Obviously, we didn't have some of our ones and guys like that there. But you sat there and you just thought about that. I said, well, I mean, maybe Houston will be a better test next week. And he was like, they just don't have the players, man. They got the coach, they don't have the players.
They're horrible.
Because it's funny because Tulane is going to be probably the best non-con game that we have this year. And going into it, you would have thought that Houston would have been that.
No, I thought Houston would have been a bigger test.
I did too.
Me
but
too.
they're sorry. I'm
Yeah,
very interested
Willie
to see what
Fritz got
y'all,
work to
like-
do.
Hey, I still think Willie Fritz is going to come in here and try some things. Probably try to be more East and West, if possible. Try to test that edge, I guess, because I don't think he's going to run right up the gut trying to be an interior team. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I just like Willie Fritz, man, as a coach, but he does.
I do too.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am
All right,
excited
Vince.
to see y'all put together your offensive line
Yeah.
and then go out. Like that's what I really want to see.
Yeah, I think
Just
I think
do it
the shuffling will be less since a lot of the injuries are players are now about ready to play.
Yeah.
They're not wanting to play them in some of these really, really meaningless games because it's like, okay, we're a 30-point spread in this game, right? And it's probably going to go up to close to the 35. by
Run the
kickoff.
ball and make it vanilla.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And
Look
so
here,
a
man.
lot of fans are going to be pissed about it, but I'm
Nah,
just
but,
like,
a dub's a
it's
dub.
logical. That's what you're supposed to do.
You're
Oh,
supposed when you're a good team, you go out there and beat bad teams like this. Right
and you just
there.
cover the spread. That's it.
what
Go
you
out there and
do.
cover the spread. That's all you need to do.
Now, enough about us. It's taking me everything in my fiber, and I hope nobody clips this. I hope nobody brings this
They're
back
gonna
up.
clip-
This
they're gonna
will
clip
piss
it.
me off. I have tried everything in my power. This after that game, after Michigan played, to say yes, Michigan is going to beat Texas because that's
Oh, no,
all I
Michigan
was
no
talking
chance.
about. Me and Nick was riding in my car. Me and my uncle was talking all this
Now I
noise.
got to
and
ride and
I was
go
kicking
go
myself.
live myself.
All right, see you, man.
I remember screaming, "Hot damn! I don't know if this is going to happen."
Well, it's not.
no, and I gotta hop at 9 too, guys.
Yeah, I gotta
So
hop in a minute, too.
If I could go quickly on this.
Yeah, let's finish on this.
Yeah.
Michigan is too one-dimensional offensively. Defensively, like, don't get me wrong, they still have those two guys on the interior of their defensive line who are very talented. Will Johnson is still out there. They still have pieces on that defense that it's like, okay, yeah, no, respect, right? Like, we have Sark, we're gonna scheme some things up, but respect to the pieces you got. But it's one of those things where could it be close for a quarter during the feeling out process? Sure. But it's not going to be close for 4 quarters in terms of Jaden Blue is really damn good at football, which is why I said that's heartbreaking for Christian Clark. That's heartbreaking for CJ Baxter. I was never worried about Texas's running back room because I remember Jaden Blue very vividly in high school and was like,
Christian
that
Klein.
guy's a beast. He's going to go in there. He's going to work. You still have you still have a really good offensive line. The only thing I want to see out of Texas's offense this year, and I know, Nick, Steven, it sounds like I'm hard on Quinn, but it's because I know what Quinn can be when he's clicking. I need to see that deep ball get where it was against Bama, right? Because last season, you had Bama Quinn, and then you had the other Quinn, and it was never bad. But I'm so hard on Quinn because I covered him in high school, and I'm like, I know the type of quarterback you can be when everything's clicking, and you are elite when everything is clicking. You have weapons on the outside. He shores that up. I mean, man, is that Texas offense going to be a blast to watch. But I will say one thing and one thing more. We also learned something about past Bama teams this past weekend when I watched Texas, gentlemen, and that's that, no offense, but Holloman Wiggins was not that good of a wide receiver coach. And I'm going to tell you why. Because at Bama, Bond was essentially a one-route dude. And that's not because of skill set. That's not because of Isaiah Bond. That's because Wiggins wasn't teaching, and it was only furthered whenever Coach Shepard came in here and said, yeah, we got to teach these guys how to run routes. And that's when I was like, oh boy, that's not good. That route he ran where he scored that touchdown, where the dude went to press him, he slapped the hand away, the hand went to the face mask. He was running that corner, that was a pretty route. Like, I watched that back so many times. That was pretty, from release to cut to everything. And so we learned, one, y'all have got a damn good wide receiver coach, and two, Bama's wide receiver coach last year was not doing what he should have been doing with some very talented pieces. David, I'm not saying, I never said Quinn, that's why I said he was good. But you're telling me that there wasn't a difference between Quinn when he was at Bama hitting those deep passes and then the Quinn that was the worst in the Big 12 at yards completed past 20 yards? He had the lowest completion percentage of, I think, most quarterbacks in deep passes. Like, you can get mad at me for saying that, but that's like saying air is necessary.
And he had Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, and Jordan Whittington.
You might not like air, but you need it.
Three guys that are starting in the NFL right now.
My only critique of Quinn this year, y'all know I always go crazy on Quinn, but my only critique is, dude, stop running. Like, stop doing that, because you have a bad knack for that. And I know you're looking down the field, I know you're trying to make a play, and sometimes you do pick up yards, but either you end up hurt or it's a turnover. Like, that's whenever he starts turning the ball over is when he's trying to scramble for no reason.
He had one bad rep with that this past game. 100%. It pissed me off.
It did too.
It pissed me off.
I was just like, hey, Quinn, you can't do that. He's turnover prone whenever he starts trying to, I guess, improv sometimes with that. And that's the only thing that kind of bothers me about Quinn, is that he's still making that same mistake. I'm like, dude, you should have learned last year when you got hurt. Stop running. Like, you don't have to run. You guys, Sark is scheming something up for you. Maybe the pocket is collapsing or this and that. Just throw it away, but don't get in traffic and try to make something happen.
Hey, Chris, I think in that play, I watched it 3 times already now, is Quinn got greedy.
Yeah.
There were so many other plays. I think Quinn got greedy in that play. And this is, maybe I'm just have my burnt orange, like glasses on. Maybe it's him saying, all right, we're going to blow the hell out this team. I just want to see if I can make this throw. And maybe that was it. Maybe not. Right. But his ball security last year was pretty decent. He only threw Stephen, 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions. Okay. So 6 interceptions last year. Not bad.
22-6 is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Not bad. So I think in this first game, I think it was, let me see if I can make, he got greedy. He got greedy. That's going to be some film starts from like, dude, take the under. Like, you can't do that shit against Michigan.
I just, and like I said, I have my reservations about him, but the only one that's really loud at this point is just that right there. I'm like, hey, kid, in my opinion, just looking from my side, you're either turning the ball over or you're getting hurt. Don't do that, because you're costing.
I don't see him doing that against Josiah Stewart and Mason Graham and those guys. I think
good point.
He'll make it. I mean, I think he'll either eat the play, which is what you would want to just be. Hey, next play. Especially when we're already at the 27-yard line or wherever we were on the field, we have points. Just eat it, dude. It's not. We don't need you to make a play every play.
That's all I'm saying. When we play y'all, I don't want to play y'all and Quinn is hurt or this and that. I want to play y'all at y'all best. But I'm just saying, like, from what I've seen, on the other side of it, I'm just like, those are the two things that normally happen when he's leaving the pocket. And I'm just like, some other team is going to come and smack you. But I get your point about being greedy. I mean, it wasn't like it was a bad play. The other dude just made a hit.
But it's football. Sometimes it happens. That is the game of football, right? Plays are
but Quinn was flawless after that play.
He was.
Let's also
he was in his bag.
I'm gonna end on that. Like, that's why I'm not worried. He was flawless after that.
Y'all understand? I'm not trying to get a kid flack. I'm just saying that
he was absolutely in his bag.
Oh yeah, and I think there's this notion that I'm saying Quinn's a bad quarterback. I'm not. I'm just saying
you're holding him accountable to his skill level.
What I saw against Alabama, if you get that Quinn every single week,
it's a wrap.
God help the defense that goes against him, because he's dropping dimes everywhere. That's what I know he can do, because I watched it. You can go back to Westlake versus South Lake Carroll, and I'm actually on the field in the back of the end zone as he's dropping dimes. You can see me in the highlight clip with the sweater on, leaned up against the Cowboy sign going, damn. So I know what he can do, and if he puts it all together, man, like I said, even when he didn't, he's still a good quarterback. So it's like,
I think this is the comment that I think we should end it on here today is Quinn plays up to his competition, and that is a problem. because
You want to
he
be
did.
a full-time employee,
Yeah,
not a part-time employee.
The Quinn that went against Bama should also been the Quinn that went against Houston. You know what I'm saying? You know, we had a dogfight in Houston. That should not have been a dogfight. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there's instances where, yes, you know, you never rise to the occasion. You always fall to the level of your training, right? You know, I'm a military guy. That's what we always preach, right? Nobody goes out to war and just becomes Superman. No, you fall back to your training when things get, you know, very chaotic, right? And so he's been trained by the best. He just needs to settle in and just be Quinn. Like, be the Quinn that was at Alabama, be the Quinn that, you know, even against Washington in the playoffs, he had a pretty damn good game. Just ball out, just be you, and don't play down to your competition. Right? It's not time to play with food. You got to go out there and just be the man. Right? And so that's my only knock on him. But other than that, man, it's been that was a great game. Great game
I'm
by
taking
Quinn.
y'all over Michigan on the Friday stream. I'm going to go ahead and rip off that Band-Aid.
Yep, same
Well,
here.
it'll be exciting to talk about it on Friday. I know y'all got to run, but
yeah, got to head out, dudes.
This is a good show.
Yeah, man. Football's here, y'all.
Yeah, me and Chris had a good scrap today. That's how you know football really back. We hadn't scrapped all year.
You, bro. You know I love you, but don't come at me with that. Man.
Hey, man, it's all love, bro.
And I'm going to send Billy Napier out to sea on one of those Viking ships, and we're going to bury him. That was
the passion. The passion was
it's
there.
all
You know
good.
what I'm saying?
All right, we out, man. We out here 2 hours, man. We out. Deuces.